Hello and welcome to Fraggle Talk Classic, the unofficial Fraggle Rock podcast brought to you by toughpigs.com. My name is Beth, and I am rewatching for the millionth time.
My name is Julia, and I'm watching for the first time after 10 years.
My name is Adam, and I am watching for the first time.
And today we're talking about episode 6 of season 1, the Preachification of Convincing John.
This episode seemed just really familiar. Just something about it was just really, really familiar.
And why is that, Adam?
You know, the answer has been lost to time.
Well, I will say for me, this episode did seem really familiar, and that's because it's one of those episodes, and I think most Fraggle Rock fans would agree that, is one of the more well-known episodes. And so while not 100% of this episode stayed with me over the years, I did certainly remember a lot of the bigger points when it came to the character of Convincing John, and also the stuff going on with the Doozers and Moki that we'll get into soon. So this one was fresher in my mind than some of the other ones we've watched so far doing this podcast.
So we open with Doc pounding individual coffee beans with a hammer because he doesn't have a coffee grinder.
Like, dude, you could just boil the beans, make cowboy coffee.
Is that how he's been making coffee up until now? Because he's like, I should make a coffee grinder. And it's like, have you just been crushing your beans with a hammer for the last 60 or so odd years of your life? What's going on, man?
Mm-hmm.
But, it's so... it feels deeply relatable, doing something the painfully tedious way because you just don't have the money or the time or the dopamine to get the thing that you need that would make it so much easier.
Yeah.
That's fair. Or it's just the way that you do things and you're like, I can't do it any other way. I can relate to that, I suppose, yeah.
As someone who recently moved into a place that has a dishwasher, boy, howdy, I feel this one.
So Doc goes to get his diary to write down this coffee grinder idea, and we get to see Sprocket now picking up the hammer to pound on one little bean with the hammer and then sprinkle that into his dog food bowl.
Yeah, I feel like if I was Doc's dog, I would also want coffee.
Yeah, although this is maybe going to now just be a thing I do every episode. Fun fact, coffee, very bad for dogs. Do not give your dogs coffee. It can be toxic to them.
I'm all in favor of random moments of dog care podcast in the middle of Fraggle Rock podcast.
Yes.
My full-time job, gotta just let the people know.
Absolutely.
So he goes back and rereads one of the older entries, and it was him trying to figure out how to put a button on a fried egg, which, yeah, that's a solidly interesting problem to solve. This is the first time, I think, that Doc has been like, I want to figure this out, that I've been like, yeah, how would you do that? Huh.
Yep. It offers a great transition to Moki, who's writing in her own diary, and we get this wonderful puppetry moment of a full body shot of Moki. She's writing in her diary while lying on her stomach with, one hand propping up her head, or her legs are out behind her, and one leg is meandering up and down like you do when you're having musing thoughts. And I was just like, wait a minute, this is a puppet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we go back to this shot multiple times through the episode. You also see her tail sometimes moving, and it's a really well done shot. It's beautiful.
You know they needed at least 2 people, 2 sets of hands to make that happen, and that just, makes me very happy.
Absolutely. So before we get too deep into, what Moki, the missteps she takes and the metaphors for our own life, we should probably talk a bit about what exactly she's observing and doing. So she's watching the Doozers at work and thinking oh, they're kind of interesting, and I wonder if you watch them long enough you can learn to understand them. Ma'am, they're right there. They are sentient. You can ask them.
They talk.
We get this lovely song called Why, where she's wondering about the big questions of life, the universe, and everything, and interacting with the Doozers, like actually touching them, and not a single one of them reacts to her presence.
Do you think the Doozers are just used to it at this time? They're just yep, the Fraggles sing songs around us, they touch us, they eat our buildings, they take our stuff, they're just so nonplussed by it at this point.
Yeah, it's this weird, interesting kind of symbiotic relationship where they're both just kind of ignoring each other.
Yeah, because, she's like asking these questions about the Doozers and she's kind of talking to herself out loud. At no point the Doozers aren't like, hey, we can tell you, hey, here's our thoughts on y'all eating our constructions, So it is like frustrating that Moki doesn't take a second to just stop and ask, but like there are lots of moments where the Doozers could be like, I don't want to like skip to the end just yet, but like, the Doozers make a decision later about when stuff happens with their constructions, like maybe not being eaten, and they make a decision, and at no point do they go talk to the Fraggles and say like, hey, what's going on? So there is like a very big divide between the two different species.
It is, and I think it's one of the things that's really like foundationally, they set it up in the theme song, right? Because the Fraggles are like, dance your cares away, and the Doozers are like, no, work your cares away. Dancing's for another day. And so the idea that there's like, even though there's a shared language, there's enough cultural difference between these two species that they just don't communicate is a fascinating one to set up and explore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really.
It's a little bit kind of clumped together because that's how it is. But the thing that I really both am glad is being demonstrated and highlighted it in a negative fashion, but also drives me mad, is like she starts off from a place of curiosity about the world. And that's great. Mm-hmm. And I love it. And she moves immediately from curiosity to certainty without any data gathering. And that drives me up a wall.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to like bring this up later, but we're already talking about maybe like Moki's place of privilege in this episode. And I felt like watching Moki, she has a very much feel of like a white woman preaching about how to treat people of other races without listening to the things that they're saying and like not asking them, especially like in the end, like after she's like implemented it and she's like, oh, maybe everyone wants to thank me for the work that I've done, and I'm like, no, Moki,
I noted that moment.
No, Moki, no. So that was, and I think that it can be, I think that the way they did it is really good, and the way that they have framed it of like, this is a thing that a lot of people do, especially people that come from places of privilege where they think that they are helping, they think they're assisting, and they're being good, quote unquote, allies. But at the end of the day, the thing you should do is ask the Doozers, like, hey, is this something, how can we support you? Is this something that can be done? And like Moki does learn that lesson in the end, obviously. But yeah, I mean, of the things that I remembered a lot about this episode, like I already said, but that was like the overarching theme of this was something I had kind of forgotten. And I was like, oh, dang, like, Fraggle Rock was talking about this, like 30, 40 years before, everything that happened in 2020 when we had to have this giant reckoning. So, props to the crew behind this episode who put this all together.
It's fascinating, actually. One of my favorite examples of that, I heard it on a podcast that I really like recently, and there was this mutual aid group that wanted to be really helpful after Hurricane Katrina. And so they were like all ready to like get like food networks and water cleanliness. And then someone was like, no, we got to go ask people. And they went and they were like, hey, what do you need? And the resounding answer was, we need someone to pick up trash. We need a place to put trash because that infrastructure has fallen apart and trash is getting everywhere. Help us do something about that. And so they did. They completely pivoted. They set up like communal garbage things and it made a difference. I also really want to touch on real quick. I know I have theories about the Doozer Fraggle ecology ecosystem. And I just want to touch on those. So we get to see them refining this sand into this clear material. There's like a very clear refinement process going on. And my theory that this is like some essential mineral that the Fraggles need, like as a part of their diet, is definitely getting supported by this.
Isn't the sticks are made out of...
Don't say. We don't know yet.
We don't know yet. Oh, no. Oh, no.
It's okay. Beth caught it, and I didn't understand what you were saying.
Don't edit it out. Edit it out, Beth. I didn't say
I'll take it out. At this point in the series,
we don't know what they're made from.
We don't know what they're made out of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, for some reason, I thought that maybe that had come up already in a previous episode.
Well, when I was reading in the tome, it was saying that episode 1 beginning establishes this particular thing, and I was like, no, it doesn't. We don't get that established until a particular episode that I won't even name because even the title will give it away. Anyway, so yes, I think your speculation is going to prove interesting and not exactly wrong.
So here's my other thing. And this is just me taking any kind of logical system far too far. But if it's a specific mineral that they're pulling out of the ground, eventually they're going to run out. And the only renewable source, the only way that would make sense within this ecosystem is if some part of Fraggle waste is contributing to replacing this in the ecosystem. That's the only way it's a closed loop. Otherwise, eventually, there's just going to be nothing of this left in the earth. So I'm not trying to say that doozers are mining and refining Fraggle poop, but
I will say that is not the answer.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about Fraggle poop coming up in this entire series.
Then maybe there's another step there that I'm missing, but like sedimentation takes a while. Anyways, I'll hop off my soapbox.
Well, we'll find out.
I also really appreciate that in the song, the last line is she goes, "And why do I ask why?" Like I like that they take it just that little bit meta. That makes me happy.
Yeah. So this song is another one that was covered on the 2018 cover album. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that album is referred to as Do It On My Own, and sometimes it's referred to as Do It On Our Own. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's the same thing. So this song gets a kind of metal-ish rock cover by a band called Red Fang, which when I Googled them, turns out they're in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, dang.
Hey.
Where Julia and I are.
I don't think I've ever heard of them. My partner probably has, because he worked at a music store for forever. But not me, who knows very little music.
I feel like I've heard my metalhead friends reference them, but that could also just be the kind of name of a band that they talk about, so...
Right.
Can we talk real quick about the Oath of the Fraggle?
Yeah, so real quick, before we get to the Oath of the Fraggle, so Moki concludes... You know, Fraggles have always eaten doozer constructions, and doozers work so hard to build them, they must love them. Mm-hmm. And Moki is making huge assumptions and not gathering data and all of that. But her assumption comes from a place of assuming good intentions and that people love the work that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, I think that can get into the conversation of intent versus impact. Like, I think that her intent is genuine, and she does think that she's making these like important strides of like, oh, we should strive to treat the doozers better, and we should stop eating their buildings because they're creating them and taking time, and I assume they love them, but then the impact doesn't, you know, align with her intent.
I have a whole thing in my notes about intent versus impact. I'm excited to get there.
So yeah, Moki tries to get her friends on board, and they are not on board. They're like, no, this is ridiculous. We're not going to stop eating doozer constructions. And then she calls for the Solemn Oath of the Fraggle.
That's so much power that you can just call for the Solemn Oath of the Fraggles. Anyone can do it, and then anyone around has to swear to it and keep to it. That's a whole lot of power.
It's a wild sociological implication there. Mm-hmm. And does that ever show up again?
It does. So
cool.
Hold on. Let me pull up my notes here. The Solemn Oath of the Fraggle appears in this episode, the episode The Day the Music Died, the episode Boober's Dream, mm-hmm. the episode Inspector Red, and the episode No Fraggle is an Island.
I'm sensing a theme in episode name titles.
Is it like one episode every season? Just you listed 5, and there are 5 seasons.
Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't look that deeply into it.
That doesn't matter. I was just curious, but yeah, I also didn't remember this as part of the episode. I remembered more of the convincing John element, which we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, like, I mean, you know, it helps that it's a kids' TV show, and all the characters we have seen, at least up till this point, have good intentions, and presumably wouldn't use this oath for malice, but like, yeah, like, if there was like a scummy Fraggle, like, I don't know, you could just take advantage of the Oath of the Fraggles.
I mean... But that's the thing, though, is because anyone can do it, you could just do it right back to the scummy Fraggle. It feels like it has this, like, inherent sort of system of checks and balances to it.
I guess so, yeah.
Kinda, maybe?
I think because they know it's so potentially powerful, like, we can see that when, you know, Moki says, well, I could always call for the Solemn Oath of the Fraggle, and there's a, like, doo-doo-doo in the music, and the rest of the Fraggles, like, freeze, like, no, you wouldn't do that. Like, they know the power that this holds.
Yeah, maybe it just doesn't get done all that often, and so it is, like, also just shocking to them that, like, their friend is bringing it up when, you know, maybe none of them have ever performed the oath before or been the catalyst for it before. It is interesting.
Yeah. So she decides she's gonna go. Also, sorry, we get this great little interlude with Doc where he's trying to explain his methodology to his friend on the phone, and his friend is apparently being like, "Why would you want to do that?" And he has this great line, "What do you mean, why? I haven't even figured out how yet."
Love that.
I did also note that Doc falling down a rabbit hole of his weird, obscure fixation while someone is nearby and needs actionable items from them is far too relatable to me as someone with ADHD. Just like, he's like focusing, like, I gotta figure out this thing with the egg. Meanwhile, his dog is like, hey, it's food time. Please feed me.
Please feed me.
Yeah.
Hashtag Doc feed your dog.
Yeah.
We've given Doc some guff before, but he feels real relatable in this moment. Like, he's not trying to actively ignore Sprocket. He's just so hyper-focused that everything else seems completely irrelevant and, like, doesn't even register in his brain at all.
Yeah. I certainly have never been there in terms of, like, putting off feeding a dog, just because that is my job that I have to do. But I have been there in other things where I know I should actively be doing something for my partner, or, like, I need to get back to a friend about something, and instead I'm just like, well, this thing's been on my mind all day, so I just need to go down a Wikipedia rabbit hole for, like, 10 minutes, and then I'll do the thing, and then it's been...
So that's how the Byzantine Empire fell. Yeah. Oh, it's midnight.
Yep.
So they decide to go to Convincing John. And there's a great moment when they come back.
Sorry, before we get to Convincing John.
Oh, we have the postcard, right?
Traveling Matt's postcard, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So in Traveling Matt's postcard, he sees some human construction workers. He says they have doozers in this world. The biggest giant doozers imaginable. And, of course, we get this great moment where he bites a steel pipe, and you get this wonderful reverberating, quivering Matt with crossed eyes. It's like, the food in this world is terrible. And I just love the assumption that all constructors must be doozers, and all constructions must be edible.
I mean, they are if you're not a coward.
Yeah. It did make me, like, question, because, like, you know, he thinks they're doozers because they're wearing the hard hats. And doozers have hard hats. What are the doozer hard hats? Are they made of plastic? Where did the doozers get this plastic? How do they have the machinery to, like, create or shape plastic? I do have, like, some questions. Like also they have a lot of gears and stuff in their machinery. Where do they get all of their things, the doozers?
I mean, they clearly possess the ability to refine...
That's true.
Things.
So maybe they have created some, like, biodegradable plastic or something, I would hope. Yeah.
I mean, have we ever seen a doozer without a hard hat? Maybe they're just born with it, and it's like a skull extrusion.
I think in this episode we see, like, a baby doozer near the end, and I don't think that doozer's wearing... We do see them without hard hats occasionally.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to suggest maybe it develops during adolescence then.
There is going to eventually be a character who doesn't wear a hard hat, right?
There is going to be an episode with a coming-of-age ceremony where these young doozers take the helmet.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that.
Oh, so it's got cultural significance.
Okay. All right.
Yo. I love that. It's very exciting.
So yes, Gobo and Wibbly have trouble keeping their promise, and so Moki's like, you know what? I'm going to go get Convincing John to convince everyone, not just you guys, but every Fraggle ever, to stop eating doozer constructions.
And so they come back from Convincing John, and Moki has cups on her hands, and Red is wearing a blindfold. But I adore that those carry through to the next scene.
Yes.
Like, it's not just like, oh, well, I have these and now we stopped. It's like, no. He convinced me, and so I'm doing this. And, like, there's a great little moment that's both comedy and also incredibly indicative of Moki as a character, where, like, Red goes up to, like, introduce convincing John, and because she's got a blindfold on, she falls flat on her face. Red, go introduce me. Red falls over. Milky goes, oh no, I'll have to do it myself. And it's like, really? A normal person would ask if their friend was okay. Your friend just fell over because she's blindfolded. Ma'am, your priorities are clear through your actions, and I do not approve of them.
Yeah.
I also like the bit where she's like, let's get a round of applause, and then she looks down and the cups on her hands. A big cheer!
You know, I also really appreciated that we don't see convincing John convince them to put the cups on their hands or the blindfold on. You know, we cut to the after of that, and like both of them trying to justify why it totally makes sense. And I think that's like a really good introduction to a character, because we don't see him, but we already are given this fact that he convinced them to do these like buck wild things, and so we know like the power that he has, and that makes his introduction, I think, all the stronger in the next scene.
Yeah, foreshadowing.
He's like hanging out in the shadows before he starts his song.
And just like with calling for the Solemn Oath of Fraggle, when she mentions, oh, well, what if I go get convincing John? We get this moment of like, dun-dun-dun, and Gobo and I think Boober is with him, are like, whoa, you wouldn't do that. And then when she's dragging Red along, Red is like, no one goes to see convincing John. Like, it's another moment of like, this has immense power. Are you sure you know what you're doing?
Which, can we get to the song? Because that idea that this person is a very powerful person is a thing that I think is explored really well here.
So, first of all, this is our first Jim Henson character.
Yes. Yes.
He's got this great mustache and sparkly jacket, and
Does he have teeth?
he does.
I didn't remember that, and I was like, why does he have teeth and none of the other Fraggles do?
I mean, he's also very clearly doing the Dr. Teeth voice.
That is true. It is like kind of the more gruff Jim voice.
Which warms my heart. I love Dr. Teeth. He's one of my favorite Muppets.
Yeah, he's great.
But yeah, so I want to talk about this just in terms of like teaching children things by representing it in literature, and what an interesting thing they're doing here. Because they're framing convincing people as a skill that is not rooted in right or wrong or any kind of morality. It's just a charisma-based skill that some people have. They're convincing people of this thing, again, not because the thing that they're convincing them of is right or wrong, just because that's a thing they're good at doing. Which you don't see that very often in shows, but it's present in the real world all over the place. And their choice to frame it musically as like an old school revival has to be on purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. He was deliberately modeled after these flashy televangelists that were cropping up everywhere.
This very much parallels like the preachers at those mega churches that are just convincing people to give their church money. Yeah.
Has anyone else been paying close attention to the lyrics of what he's singing?
I have a note on that. And again, this ties into the convincing thing, and again, with so much better of a parallel to the real world than one usually gets, he never makes any points. He just likens that situations to other situations that the Fraggles are familiar with that have emotionally charged situations and are going to elicit an emotional reaction. And that's a tactic. That's a thing that real people do to try to bilk people out of money and change the way they think. That's Fox News.
Yeah, I mean, he also like says that like he knew a Fraggle that like ate a stick and like turned into a human or something, which is also weird because have we heard them call humans before?
No, we have not. We've only ever heard them called silly creatures.
Yeah, that's what
from
I thought.
Traveling Matt's postcards, which, if we're tracking the inconsistencies that arise solely from the lyrics, this just furthers my personal headcanon.
Which is?
I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but okay. My personal headcanon is that Fraggles and humans used to have regular contact. They knew about each other's worlds, they interacted with each other, and then something changed, and then we forgot about each other. But little snippets of our sayings and our culture remain in their vocabulary and cultural memory.
Yeah. That fits into the theory I have very well, which they're also like, if it's on purpose, which I don't know if it is or not, but if it's on purpose, which it feels like there's a solid possibility, they're demonstrating that this really convincing guy has a deeper understanding of the world than the people he's trying to convince.
Either that, or he just knows, like, this phrase, human being, can elicit his fellow Fraggles to feel like, oh, a big, scary creature. Mm-hmm. That's all we know.
I mean, again, that speaks to him having a deeper understanding and using it to be more convincing. Like, that gives him power to manipulate.
Yeah, I was going to say, using that level of power to his advantage, ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Also, just the song slaps.
Yeah.
Some really good
It's a great song.
Yeah, I literally wrote in my notes, this song slaps, and then Jim in all caps.
I think I started off with, first off, love me some Dr. Teeth.
Who doesn't?
So we get to see them all being really hungry, and it's fascinating to me, and it speaks to, again, some kind of ecological something, because she's like, no, you've had food. Why are they so hungry if they've already had food? I swear it's because this is some kind of essential, like, mineral or vitamin or something that they can only get this way.
So right before, so she makes all of them take the oath, like, convincing John convinces them to all take the Solemn Oath of the Fraggle. And so they're saying it again, like, we get the same words, but the movements are slightly different. Because when the Fraggle Five took the oath, they had to each turn in a circle. And now we get a shot with, I think I counted 22 Fraggles, which means 11 puppeteers with one Fraggle on each hand. And if they were to turn, if the human puppeteers were to turn in a circle, then it would look like each pair of Fraggles is like do-si-doing around each other. So they can't do that. They have to have them just kind of like moving back and forth.
Yeah.
So they go get Moki to try to get her to undo this thing. And again, this touches on that line that Julia got earlier, that she's like, maybe they want to thank me. And it's like, wow, you are clearly very self-important. You are doing this good to see yourself as a good person. This is intention-based service instead of impact-based service, and that is not great.
Yeah, she's not far enough on her journey of, like, where she is centering herself, over, she did this thing, and she's the person that needs to be thanked, and she's, like, expecting the attention. And ultimately, that's not the case, Moki.
And there's a lot of people who, like, want to be helpful, but it's because they want to be able to see themselves as a helpful person, not because they actually want to do anything helpful.
Right, they want to feel good about themselves more than helping people.
Exactly, and I think that's kind of dangerous.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we've all felt this impulse of, like, you do a good thing and you want to be recognized for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very human, very Fraggle, I suppose, in this sense. And it's still, like, really early on in the show, and so I do think I think I said earlier, like, it's good that we're, like, getting these, like, deeply flawed elements of these characters, because ultimately, I'm assuming, in trying to remember how the show goes, but we're going to see the characters grow and learn from this, and I do know that we are going to see the relationship between the Fraggles and the Doozers grow over the next several seasons.
Yeah, she also has that one line, I'm the only one that truly cares about the happiness of the Doozers, and it's like, well, you haven't talked to them at all. Yeah.
So they call a meeting. They're like, hey, we're being overrun with Doozer constructions. We can barely move. The guy who calls the meeting, it's not the world's oldest Fraggle, it's just an old dude.
Yeah, I didn't know who that was.
We have not yet met the world's oldest Fraggle, but we will at some point.
That's exciting.
Oh, has he not popped up yet? Okay.
Not yet, yeah. But he has this great line. He says, you've made a mess of things here today. Now admit it and release us from the Solemn Oath. And she digs in harder. She says, no, you're all just heartless. You don't understand. I'm the only one that truly cares. And then she packs her things and goes.
Yeah. Also just clear defensiveness of, like, sometimes you can't admit that you've, like, messed up, and apologize for it. Yeah, you gotta dig your heels in harder.
Which she does. To her credit, she does admit after she actually hears the Doozers say the thing.
It just, takes her a beat.
Yeah.
Because, she, after this, she, like, storms off, and she overhears how the Doozers are planning to move because there's no more space for them to build their constructions. And, they relied on the Fraggles as it turns out, eating their buildings because then there was more room for them to build and they could continue their work that way. But they think that something's gone wrong and they've got to like go find a different space.
Which leads me to wonder what the doozers are getting out of this. If it's, I mean, again, I think I touched on it earlier. Like, yeah, you're a small creature and you're living around bigger creatures. Maybe they scare off predators. But like, the Fraggles are clearly getting something out of this sort of symbiotic relationship, and I'm wondering what the doozers are getting and if that's explored at all.
Well, so in the conversation, the little, okay, first of all, let's address the fact that the little doozer with pigtails has pigtails and is dressed in red and is voiced by Karen Prell, like Red Fraggle is.
Oh yeah, I didn't even clock that. Yeah.
I didn't either.
I was like, I don't think she's supposed to be a deliberate parallel of Red in character. I just love that it's a nod to that anyway. But, she's like asking, like, why? Why do we have to move? Why did the Fraggles just suddenly stop eating? And, the mommy doozer says, no one knows. The Fraggles have become heartless.
Mm-hmm.
If they will not eat the constructions, we must move on or we will die. And like earlier on, she says, doozers have to build. So apparently it is this like intrinsic need that doozers have. It is just what they do. And they need the space to do that. And so while that relationship was happening where the Fraggles would eat the constructions so that it was, space became a renewable resource.
Ooh, good framing. Heck yes.
But yeah, they had this moment of like, oh, why are the Fraggles suddenly doing this? Well, no one knows. So there's definitely, neither side is listening to each other. Or I would say neither side is actively seeking out information from the other side.
Mm-hmm. It also, and this is a parallel that I clocked only my second time watching it, there's definitely the whole, like, yes, you're doing activism for people without centering those people. There's also this really interesting thing of, like, applying morality to an ecosystem in a way that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Very much akin to the people who are like, well, the mean wolves eat the deer, so we need to get rid of the wolves, and then everything falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of one of my favorite Adventure Time episodes. Hello, welcome to Adam References Adventure Time. There's a really good one where there's this, like, giant cabbage guy named Donnie, and he's being an absolute jerk to these little housing people. And so Finn and Jake are like, no, we need to teach him to not be a jerk. And so they teach him to not be a jerk, but then the housing people start getting attacked by wolves. And they're like, what's happening? No, this is so much worse. What did we do? And the wolves are like, haha, we are Y-wolves. Thank you so much for getting rid of the jerk cabbage. He exerts jerkions, which are these, like, particles that drive us away and keep the house people safe from us wolves. But since you got rid of him, now we can feast. And so they have to go get Donnie to be a jerk again and keep the house people safe. And it's this idea that, like, yeah, from the moral standpoint that we're used to, this might look kind of messed up or might seem kind of wrong, but it's a system that is there for a reason and has been going on the way it has for a reason. And applying morality without also applying an understanding of that system and all of the parts in it and what they're for generally makes things worse.
Yeah, agreed.
So Moki realizes her mistake. She comes back and, she gives her apology, which she admits she's like, this is going to be hard for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I appreciate that. Like, not only admitting your mistake to, like, one person, but to, like, a whole bunch of people who you've actively harmed.
Your entire community, essentially.
Yeah. And so she does acknowledge and apologize. And then, the old guy is like, well, that's very nice, Smokey, but there's one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you still have to release us from this oath that you held us to.
Mm-hmm.
But so, yeah, she releases him from the oath. We get Convincing John. He comes back. He sings a reprise of, like, okay, now you should eat the towers. And everyone feasts and it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moki has one line that I really want to highlight at the end here.
Mm-hmm. I bet it's the line that I was going to highlight, but yeah.
Yep.
It's not easy understanding other people's problems, but it's easy to think you do.
Yep. That's the pin in, like, the entire episode. And, also, it's just still very factual to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And there's a great shot with these adorable pot-bellied Fraggles all lying around with tummy aches and doozer constructions held limply in their hands and mouths and wimbly hiccups, and the whole thing is adorable.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
And then after that, we go back to Doc one last time with Sprocket, and he has figured out how to sew a button to an egg, and the answer is to freeze the egg.
And then drill holes.
And then he realizes that he hasn't fed Sprocket, so he just gives Sprocket the egg and says to just wait for it to thaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last line in my notes in all caps is, "Hey, Doc, feed your dog."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this moment where, so Sprocket is like chewing on the can of dog food to try and get it open, and Doc is like,
"Baby,
you ruin your teeth, Sprocket. You should use a can opener." Which, like, that was the last tool in the last scene that Sprocket handed to him. Like, he handed him a can opener.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sprocket's got this moment of, like, pause, and then finally, like, like, dude.
Sir. So, Beth, what were you really excited to see again when you watched this episode? And Julia, what surprised you in this episode? Like, what had you forgotten about this episode that was a pleasant surprise to see again?
Beth, which one of us is going first?
Well, so I just want to tie up that, like, I'm going to have to get used to Sprocket being always the put upon character. But, like, they could have tied in the themes of this episode a little more strongly if Doc had had a moment of, oh, you're right, I was getting so focused on this thing that you ended up getting hurt in the process. It's like we're left to draw those conclusions on our own.
I do think it is potentially a compare and contrast. Like, this is Moki realizing that she messed up well, and this is Doc refusing to even acknowledge that he's messed up.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, I will say the thing that I was looking forward to, it's always an extra special treat when we get a Jim Henson character in Fraggle Rock.
Mm-hmm.
He gets 2 recurring characters, maybe 3.
Yes.
Definitely 2 main ones that would come to most people's minds. I'm sure he plays a couple other one-off characters. I don't know about reoccurring,
Probably.
though. Maybe.
Yeah, I was looking forward to seeing this episode again to just get a little more nuance. I feel like every time I rewatch it, I see new layers of meaning and relevance in our own world.
Yep.
Yeah, and for me, pleasantly surprised. I mean, going into this episode with the title of it being the Preachification of Convincing John, I knew that it was the episode. I remembered we meet Convincing John in this episode. I knew it had to do with, like, the Fraggles being convinced to not eat the doozer sticks. And so there was, compared to previous episodes, there was quite a bit more that I did remember about this episode. And I think I knew that Moki was the catalyst for a lot of the stuff, but I did forget about the overarching elements of, like, speaking for a community that you're not a part of and speaking with, like, authority and knowledge when you don't take the time to actually get to know that community and ask them what it is that they need. And as I've said, like, it feels very applicable, especially in, like, the last couple of years with all of the, everything that, like, came out of the protests in 2020. But, like, even before then, it's been a conversation, and it's been a very important one, and it's just still feels, like, incredibly relevant. And I think that the way that they handle it overall it's very well done, showing that Moki comes from this place of wanting to do good and thinking that she's really helping, and then it turns out she's actually made things worse for everybody in the surrounding community, like both her own and the people she's trying to help, the doozers she's trying to help. And eventually she does apologize, and she has that line of, it's easy to think that you're doing good, but that's not always the case. I can't remember. I just paraphrased it. But yeah, I think that part really pleasantly surprised me, and I have been reminded of why this is one of those episodes people will put on their lists of must-watch episodes from Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, quick note about the international versions.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
According to Muppet Wiki, in the French version, Doc has trouble getting his dog Croquette to take a bath for a society ball hosted by Madame Pontavin, but eventually succeeds after pointing out that Madame has an attractive dog.
So French.
Further preparations include a souffle to take to the event and Croquette blow-drying his fur. While they attend in tuxedos and top hat, I want to see a picture of that. It's got to be freaking adorable to see Sprocket in a tuxedo and top hat.
Yeah.
To their dismay, Madame herself shows up in blue jeans and a cap.
I like that.
I don't know how that connects to the theme, but I like it.
What a wildly different version of Doc than the one that we get in this series, where he's, like, going to a ball, wearing a tuxedo.
Yup.
Awesome.
And so there's a note also in Muppet Wiki about this postcard having to do with the timing. So this is a flashback episode. Like, Moki's writing in her diary about something that happened in the past. And when Gobo goes to get the postcard, Doc is, attempting to sew a button on a fried egg. But he started that goal at the beginning of the episode, supposedly when Moki started writing in her diary, so the timing is a bit wibbly-wobbly.
The flow of time is distorted in Lordran.
Yeah, I did clock that, like, when Moki gets brought back after she's had Convincing John convince everyone, like, the old Fraggle that's talking to her that isn't the world's oldest Fraggle, like, mentions, like, that Convincing John had happened, like, earlier that day or something, and I was like, oh, It's been less than a day, and already the Doozers have overrun them with constructions. Yeah, I had that thought of time seemed a little hard to follow in this episode, but, we're also probably not supposed to really be paying much attention to it.
Right.
Joke's on them. We're going to pay so much attention to it.
But does that mean that Doc has been trying to sew a button on an egg for, like, an entire day or longer?
I mean, that tracks.
Yeah, I would do that.
But then that's him and Sprocket not eating for, like, 24 hours.
Oh, jeez. That's why you gotta sprinkle the coffee grounds into your dog bowl.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Hashtag Doc feed your dog.
Yeah. Maybe it's just supposed to be one very long day, and that's, like, the morning when he's grinding up the beans, and then it's been a whole day of not feeding your dog.
Oh.
Oh, no. Ugh.
Beth, how should we make the world a little fragglier?
Oh, the eternal question. When something in your natural ecosystem is working just fine, don't mess with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And I would say, to be a good ally or accomplice or whatever form of support word that you want to take on, show up and listen. Don't center yourself when it's other people having the problems that you think that you'd like to solve, because maybe that doesn't need to be solved, and maybe also it's a different solution than you would assume. So, yeah, just listen sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, the next time you're walking by a construction site, eat it. Eat the building. Eat the building. Chew it up and swallow it. It's good for you. I promise you'll be okay.
Tasty steel. Steel bars. My favorite.
Wood, crunchy, fiber in your diet. Doctors approve.
Gotta be good for you.
Oh, yeah.
Most fiber.
Oh.
Super fiber.
Disclaimer, don't listen to us.
We are not a medical advice podcast.
Yeah.
Perhaps even the opposite of a medical advice podcast.
Yeah.
All right, shall we plug our pluggables?
You can find me at Geek Girl Grown Up on Instagram, then also juliagaskell.com for any poetry stuff that I'm doing, and then also on Tough Pigs, sometimes writing pieces.
You should not perceive me. I do not exist. I will let you know if and when perceiving me will be beneficial for both of us, but for now, do not perceive me!
You can find me at Bethana Cook on social media. You can find my blog of Muppets lyrics at ourmuppetmelody.com.
Nice.
All right, thanks for listening. Make sure to follow toughpigs.com. Give us a good review, and we will see you next time down at Fraggle Talk.
Don't forget to dance your cares away.
Down at Fraggle Talk.
Fraggle Talk Classic is brought to you by toughpigs.com. Fraggle Talk art by Dave Hulteen Jr. The Fraggle Rock mark and logo, characters, and elements are trademarks of the Jim Henson Company. All rights reserved. The Fraggle Rock theme song, written by Philip Balsam and Dennis Lee, is used with permission. Special thanks to the Jim Henson Company and the entire Fraggle Rock family. For more from Tough Pigs, please find us at Tough Pigs on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, TeePublic, and Patreon. Fraggle Talk Classic is produced and edited by me, Beth Cook. Thank you to Joe Hennis, the Tough Pigs Muppet Fan Podcast executive producer. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time, down at Fraggle Talk. There's doozer constructions all over the place, and Gobo says, they just built my guitar into an overpass. Boober says, you think that's bad? My wash tub is full of doozer constructions. And my immediate thought was, well, at least there ain't no hole in the wash tub.
Womp
womp. Yes, I got pity laughs. That's all I wanted.